Hey everybody, this is Chris from Comic Tropes, or as you see me now, from Pros and Cons, because I started a second channel. This is the first time I'm starting a live stream on this channel, so not 100% sure it's working. Bear with me. I'm looking at the chat room to see if anybody shows up, and I'm also going onto social media to say that it's online and to test for myself to see if I am in fact streaming. I hope so, but yeah, let me zoom in here a little on the art, and my plan is to draw tonight and to take questions from any of you. Oh, hello, Jean. There's my sister, so I guess my live stream must be working. That's fantastic. How are you? Bear with me as I try to do something here. I'm just trying to zoom in on the art a little bit. But I'm glad to see that it seems to be working. That's important. I'm going to turn off autofocus and zoom in a little bit. Let's see if that looks any better. And what's it like, Gene? Can you hear me okay? Just want to be sure that things are going normal. I'm going to look it up on my phone real quick. I hope this is working. Whoops. Turn off the volume there. That's very obnoxious. I've watched a few episodes of Mandalorian. I sound like I have a cold. I do have a cold. That's why I sound like I have a cold. Oh, good. Yeah, it looks like it is, in fact, working. Awesome. Wasn't sure about that, because this is my first time doing that. Let me share this link on social media real quick, since it looks like it's just you. Oh, and also hello to Iron Show. I don't expect there to be a lot of people jumping in here, because I'm not doing this on the main Comic Tropes channel, which has a lot of subscribers. Pros and Cons has very, very few, at least relative to that. But maybe if I at least share it to Twitter, that can get me a few more folks in here. But anyway, no matter what, I'm going to draw, and I'm happy to answer any questions and talk to people. Hello, Robert Champion. I got an alert and thought I'd check in. Well, that's awesome. That means it's working. Thank you for subscribing, Gene. I appreciate it. How far into The Mandalorian are? No spoilers in case nobody else is watching, but how many episodes have you watched? Because there's only 8 for the season, just so you know. It's pretty short. Alright, so let's see what I've got for pens here. I've got my fine brush, I've got my medium brush, and I've got another fine brush. Okay, so I'm going to start with my medium. 5. Oh, you're almost done. You're more than halfway through the season. That was fast. It's pretty good, though, right? At least I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like the Mandalorian. Never seen The Mandalorian before. It's good. Hello, Beta Ray Bingus. Last episode is great on the whole. Taika killed it. Totally agree. Great director. He really knocked it out of the park there. So, in terms of what I'm drawing tonight, I'll just explain that real quick, since it's obviously not really a superhero or anything. But at work, we all decided to do a Secret Santa. And we decided, like, 2 days before Christmas. So, it was really last minute. My coworker and friend that I got owns this specific motorcycle, and this is him. And what I'm trying to do here is as sort of a bonus present, because I am getting him something, but I thought I'd also try to illustrate him with his motorcycle. I think he'll like that. But anyway, let's see. Watch the first 2 with Chris. Wanted to watch more? Yeah, good luck. Let's see. I just found out that Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey have a podcast devoted to talking about The Office. Yes, I haven't listened to it yet, but I've heard that they started that. I know that they're great friends, and I love that idea. Get some insider info on The Office. I like The Office overall. The last couple seasons after Michael Scott left were pretty rough, but there was still sometimes some funny stuff. Hello, L.S. Grieger, and let's see... I thought you were drawing Ghost Rider at first glance. Well, that's a reasonable assumption. It's a motorcycle, right? There's not too many motorcycle-based superheroes, so I get you there. Looks like this brush is actually kind of dying, so I don't think I'll use it for much other than maybe filling in some of these black areas here. Yeah, like that is really dying. I have some nicer brushes. I'm not 100% sure where I put them. I think I took them with me to Japan and must have left them in a backpack in the closet. Please, yeah, share the stream to anyone you want. That sounds fine with me. Sometimes Captain America has a motorcycle. If he's going to travel, it's usually with a motorcycle. Captain America's cool. But this might take more than just one drawing session. So I'll just sort of take my time, I think, so that I actually deliver like a nice piece. And I'm just trying to do this to relax tonight. I've been working for several days. Today's a day off, but I'm right back to work tomorrow. So sometimes it's kind of hard to relax when you don't have 2 days in a row. You know, you got a bunch of chores that you sort of need to get done. Or you do like one fun thing and there's your whole day. And it's like right back to work. So I wouldn't say I'm stressed, but I'm also not relaxed, you know? Oh well. Have I ever considered buying Copic markers? These? Yes, I love Copics. I love Copics. My father, for my birthday this past year, got me these grays, and I might use those tonight. And, Jean, didn't you send me some Copics for Christmas? Jean is my sister, and I believe you sent me like 3 colors, right? Oh, no, you sent me a Copic, like bag, a bag to hold Copics that's divided nice. That's what you sent me. I knew it was something related to Copics. Took me a minute. Hello to Shane. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, you got me what's called the wallet, right? Hello, Beowulf. Wish I could watch, but I got my boyfriend over. We'll share the stream. Well, thank you. That's fine. And no hurt feelings there. You know, I just figured I'm going to draw, and when I can, I love to live stream when I'm drawing just because it's an excuse to do 2 things at once. Like, hopefully answer some questions or get to interact with my audience. And moving forward, I'll just be doing my live streams on this channel because lots of people started to not really like that I was doing it on my Comic Tropes channel. At a certain point, I understood. I was like, yeah, people sign up for comic book reviews, so that's fair if you're not necessarily interested in seeing me be me and do other things. So be it. Anyway, it's definitely been a while since I've been able to have any sort of a live chat and talk to my audience, and I want to say thank you to everyone. Channel just passed 75,000 subscribers, so that's a nice little milestone. About halfway through the year, I thought I was on track to cross 100,000 this year. But in the last several months, like the last quarter of 2019, I think YouTube changed its algorithm because I definitely don't have my videos recommended to as many people anymore. So that slowed down, and that's okay. It'll just take a little longer. Let's say hello to Jose. Thank you for jumping in. Hello to Zerder, or ZRDR. The subject is just my friend and his motorcycle. Drawing something for someone. When is the Jim Shooter episode coming? Eventually. I want to do it right, and every time I sort of start writing it, I feel like all I'm doing is like reciting facts and figures, you know, like details, and I'm like, I need to get like more of an angle where I can, like, you know, express more of my personal opinions so that it's like more unique and interesting and engaging, and I haven't quite found that angle yet. I guess that's all I can say. It's definitely an episode I want to do, but if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well. So it's one that I've sort of started and had to sort of set aside. Jim Shooter's a controversial figure, and it's definitely something worth talking about. Hello, Samuel. I did comic reviews and content. I dig the whole creative endeavor aspect, and I like hanging out in live streams. It's all good. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you. What did you get for Christmas? A few things. Let's see. My sister sent me, for instance, that Copic marker wallet. That's very nice. And she also made by hand some felted Star Wars stuff. She made me a BB-8 and Wicket the Ewok out of felt. It's beautiful. It's really cute, and I really appreciate that. One of the more amusing things I got is I got all the movies by a guy named Neil Breen. And Neil Breen is just this guy in Las Vegas that has a bunch of money, and so he makes his own movies where he's the star. He's not necessarily a good actor or good looking. He's certainly not a good writer or much of a competent director, but he's not trying to make bad movies, which makes his bad movies very entertaining. So that's pretty funny, I thought. That was pretty cool. Got some clothes, got some gift cards. Nothing super exciting. Oh, out of wool. Excuse me, not felt. Jean's correcting me. She made stuff out of wool. Sorry about that. If I had to make a documentary of comic history, which subject would you do? That's a great question. I'd love to make a bunch of, like, real documentaries. One thing I'd love to do would be to get access to an artist or a writer, ideally an artist, honestly, get access to their studio for a day to a couple of days and record them at work and just try to stay a little out of the way, but every once in a while ask pointed questions about why they are doing something a certain way. I think that would be like a very interesting series of little documentaries, a slice of life as to why an artist approaches their process in a certain way. But I'd also really like to do a documentary, a deep dive, which would require more monetary resources than I really have to do a Comic Tropes episode. So we're talking like a documentary about the a certain age of comics, and I'm forgetting the name of it. Hold on. I should have it here in my notes because it's something I've been researching. Yeah, I want to talk about the Platinum Age of comics. And the Platinum Age was the age before the Golden Age, which a lot of us know about. That's when Superman came out, for instance. Superman and Batman and all that stuff. The Platinum Age would be anything like before that. Going back to essentially the Victorian Age, which is another sort of precursor of comics. But the Platinum Age is fascinating because it's a lot of comic strips that are forming the language of comics, but not like regular ongoing Sunday funnies type stuff. So there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about in terms of how comics came to be comics. And what's especially fascinating it to me is that it's uniquely American. It's a very American art form. So I think that would be interesting to discuss. Yeah, stuff like the Yellow Kid, the Funnies, Crazy Cat, and of course some stuff that's even before that really informed comics. So I think that would make... I will try to make a Comic Tropes episode about it, but what would make it a good documentary is if I had the resources to actually interview various historians and access maybe like private collections that have held this stuff, because a lot of that stuff is so rare that, you know, it certainly has never really been scanned and uploaded onto the internet. There's only so much you can pull on the internet, but there is a lot of there's a lot that I could get into there. Pulp heroes, yep, yeah, there were a lot of bat-based pulp heroes. I think you can reasonably expect that I will probably do a Platinum Age episode about comic tropes this year. It's just that if I had the resources for a true documentary, I think I could dig deeper and give more content that maybe hasn't been shared elsewhere. It would require a lot more research and some actual travel and interviews and stuff like that to pull these bits of history. A little time consuming. Yeah. Well, you know, my real sort of long-term goal with Comic Tropes would be to get it to a point where I could afford to invest in doing things like documentaries like that about comics specifically. It would all be comic book related. But we'll see. I don't know if that will ever actually happen or not. In the meantime, I'm doing the best I can with basically next to no resources. Tiny bit of support, of course, on things like Patreon and Google, but not a lot. Yeah. Right now, all I'm going to do is sort of focus on the outside edges of this overall piece, and then I'm going to go inside and start like fleshing out detail and stuff. What I've tried to do here is there's a lot of technical detail to a motorcycle. So I've been looking at like reference photos a lot, and what I'm trying to do is put it in some pretty harsh, simple, like 1-point light, where, you know, it's basically just some light coming straight down, and that way I can throw a lot of this into shadow, and I won't have to show every little bit of technical detail like maybe an artist like say Jeff Darrow might be able to do, or Kim Jong-gi. I want to imply some of that and allow my viewers' imaginations to sort of fill in the blanks of what I can't get to. So that's my approach right now. I also think it will provide an interesting contrast if I can throw in a lot of spotted blacks. I just think it'll look nice. We'll see. I'm already not quite following exactly what I said I'd do, where I'd only be doing the exteriors. I'm like starting to fill in some of the interior designs. I can't help myself. But bear with me. I'm going to pop my head into the chat and see what sort of questions are being asked, and whether I can answer any for anybody. All right. Read that Action Comics 2 to 4 didn't even have Superman in them. No, they did. I'm pretty sure they did. That's an actually, now that you say that, I wonder if I have that right. Maybe my memory's playing a trick on me. I haven't looked at them in ages. Because they wouldn't have the information necessarily. You are right about that. They wouldn't necessarily have the information on as to like whether Superman is selling for a couple months. You know, it took a while to see what the sales figures are. But I could swear that like they just, you know, took a gamble and were like, no, I think this is going to pay off. I think that they did keep going with Superman. But now you've got me like sort of doubting myself. I'll have to look that up. It is true that Action Comics was always an anthology for decades, so it wasn't every story that was Superman. That's the truth. Saw a good movie today. I saw Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler by the Safdie brothers, guys who made a Good Time, and man, that is a dark, bleak drama, kind of a thriller, really, but it's depressing, and yet like it feels so real. Like you're like, yeah, I've known people like this. It's just basically about an inveterate gambler, a guy that just cannot stop placing bets to cover existing bets, and anytime he like wins a little bit, it's instantly rolled over into another big bet, and the guy just keeps getting himself in bigger and bigger trouble. It's so stressful. You're just like, oh my god, this guy's bringing down everyone around him. Not gonna spoil anything, but it is a performance where I'm like, yeah, if they give Adam Sandler a nomination for Best Actor, I can see it, because you don't think of him as the Sandman. You think of him as this guy Howard Ratner the whole way through. He's created quite a compelling, if not likable, character. Blue World Comics, hello. I know this is going to sound crazy, but have you ever considered doing a comic tropes on, say, Sonic or Tom and Jerry? Well, I did do an episode about Sonic, actually. Specifically, it was about how I didn't quite understand all the continuity and lore, and how I just tried to read an issue and was like, I don't get the appeal here. It's a little too much for me. It was it was impenetrable. It was impenetrable to me coming in. So I can't claim to be a fan of the Sonic comics, but maybe I just chose a bad issue. Don't know. Just tried to have fun with it. Tom and Jerry, maybe. Definitely remember watching plenty of Tom and Jerry as a kid. Kind of always wanted Tom to get Jerry once or twice. Started to sort of feel bad for that cat. Would I do an episode on the 100-page Walmart exclusives? Yeah, I probably would. Ratner, yeah. Well, like you're saying, Captain Negativity and Iron Shell, it's like some people are like, well, it's a little surprising, right? Like that Adam Sandler has like made a good movie, and that's fair because he definitely seems to have phoned in his comedies for quite a while now. But anytime he's tried to do drama, he's definitely been good at it. Like Funny People was definitely a solid movie. Punch Drunk Love is fantastic. So he's definitely always been a capable actor. He just doesn't seem like he has a lot of interest going in that direction, but he's certainly very good at it. He could have a much bigger career if he decides to go in a dramatic route in the future. That's my 2 cents. Oops, hold on. My computer's asking me if I want to update something. Sorry to hear that it's been a rough year for you there. Hold on, it just went up. Nausead. I'm sorry to hear that. Hope things get better for you. Everything about Tom and Jerry. That's cool. Do they ever show these days like the unedited, like original episodes? Because when I grew up, like they did show the original episodes, and even then as a kid, like in the early 80s and stuff, you were like, ooh, like this doesn't like feel racially sensitive, you know what I mean? Like there was some not flattering depictions of black people every once in a while, and I heard that eventually they got bought by like Cartoon Network or something and edited to get cleaned up, which I don't think is a bad thing if you're showing it to kids today. But I also think historically it would be worth preserving the originals, just to say like, hey, this is how it was. It's not pretty, but it's how it was. Jojo Rabbit was very good, yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not saying that Funny People was necessarily a good movie, but I will still say that Sandler gave a good performance in it. I think he was really good in it. Could you say Adam Sandler's character was addicted to gambling in the movie? Yeah, big time. Huge addict. It was depressing. You just like, how can you not see what this is doing to your life and the people around you? But it's a real thing. It's a real thing that some people suffer with, like an addiction to all sorts of things, but certainly gambling is up there, yeah. So that's why I was like, it was good, because it felt very real. But I liked it. I did. I thought it was a good movie, and because it was sort of atypical, it's like you don't really necessarily know where it's going to go, and I like that, because sometimes, like, as much as I like, like superhero movies and Star Wars and stuff, the fact is, at this point, I've just seen that kind of stuff so many times that it never really surprises me. Like, I kind of know where it's going to go and can, like, write that stuff in my head pretty fast, like, and that's not like slamming it. It can still be entertaining, but like the overall narrative doesn't surprise, and I do like to sort of be surprised sometimes, like when I'm seeing a story. So that's why I kind of enjoyed Uncut Gems. I never knew Mammy Two Shoes was a racially insensitive thing when I was younger. Really? To me, it stood out as like, I was like, it doesn't sound so. I don't know why. I don't know why. Because you're like, maybe I didn't completely get it. I just was like, it doesn't seem like a nice depiction of someone. Yeah, she may have been voiced by a black woman. It was just, there's something about it, like, it just made her sort of seem dumb or something. I don't know exactly what it was. I guess I've never like looked to see like whether maybe people don't think it was a big deal. I felt like as a kid it made me like uncomfortable somehow. Didn't really reflect the people that I knew anyway. Well, I hope my coworker Tan likes this drawing. It's kind of fun to. I just was in the mood to draw, and I was in the mood to draw something kind of real. So it's like, yeah, motorcycle. That sounds awesome. I love drawing technical things when I've got the time. Buildings and motorcycles and cars. But I also find it more time consuming than drawing people and other sort of things. Anyone ever visited Silver Snail Comics in Toronto? No, sorry, can't say that. I'm wondering, I don't know, I don't think I've ever actually, no, I've never gone to Toronto proper, so, yeah, no, I haven't been there. I am planning on another international trip for 2020, probably around the same time, like as in early December. And this year, I think I'm going to go to Brazil, and there's a huge Comic-Con there in the beginning of December. So I'm just thinking like one day of my vacation I will go to that Comic-Con and sort of see what South America's comic book scene is like. Definitely want to see what other people do to celebrate comic book culture and such. So kind of excited about that idea. That's what Chrissy and I are currently planning for 2020. Maybe I'll luck out and I'll get to bump into some Comic Tropes viewers. We'll see. Cyber 6. Yeah, I've heard about Cyber 6. Haven't read it. Guess you won't see me for another year? No, I think I'm. My current plan is to come up to New England in spring and actually get to enjoy some of the nice weather. Maybe see the beach or go to Dad's lake, something like that. So that's what I'm currently planning is, in a couple months, come see you. I miss my family. Family's more of a priority than another international trip. It's just that that's what I want to do, Gene. And you're always welcome to visit me. My family never comes to visit me ever since I moved across the country, but whatever. What can you do? Godzilla in Hell. I flipped through it. A friend of mine has that, but I haven't read it proper. I haven't sat down and read the whole thing. He told me he really liked it, and he's a big Godzilla fan, so I definitely trust his opinion on it. Just haven't had time to read it myself. Someday, I hope. Definitely sounds like a cool premise. I'm from Brazil. If you ever come to Rio de Janeiro, let's have a beer. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to hit Rio. Right now, I'm currently thinking Sao Paulo specifically. I would love to see Rio, but I don't know if that's realistic yet to do both. We'll see. Hello, David. Spring is great. I know what it's like. There was a Fox TV show based on the Cyber 6 comics? Oh, I'll have to read up on that. I'll definitely read up on that. That sounds cool. think I'm just gonna have fun, like sort of doing this little by little, focusing on all the tiny details. That's what seems fun to me right this minute. So that's what I'm gonna do. I think the thing that intimidates me most is working on the tires, because I want to make sure that they're nice and round, and sometimes that's intimidating when you get to the inking stage, because if you make a mistake, it's kind of permanent. But I'll still do it. I just sense a slight resistance. But with that said, let's all talk about things like Star Wars, something that we can all agree on. No, I'm just kidding. Star Wars has proved to be somewhat controversial lately. I really don't want to talk about it. Except for The Mandalorian. I'll just talk about that because I love it. Mando. I'm going to have to get like a Beskar Steel Mandalorian. I don't know if they make that. I'm not an expert on figures, but I saw this guy a couple months ago and I picked it up, and I love his look. He's so cool. This is the way. Just finished Superior Spider-Man earlier this month. Any thoughts? I liked Superior Spider-Man. If you're talking about Dan Slott's run, I liked that quite a bit. I thought that was a great storyline. I had complete faith that Peter Parker would eventually be coming back, and in the meantime, I really enjoyed the idea of seeing a supervillain trying to fill the shoes of a hero, because it sort of made him a better person, despite his best efforts. Like, if you're going to try to be Spider-Man... I've always felt like this. There's this phrase, like, fake it till you make it, And if you're, like, afraid of, say, public speaking, but you force yourself to get up and speak in public, you just like pretend that you're brave and that you're not afraid, you come across as brave and not afraid. So it's sort of like, by pretending to be something, you become that thing. I believe that. And so like I really liked Superior Spider-Man, seeing Dr. Octopus just become a better and better person. I liked it a lot. That's exciting, Gene. Mandalorian, best thing Star Wars has ever done. I mean, it's great. It's really good. For Clan Ordo. I don't know Clan Ordo. What's that from? I don't know everything about Star Wars, so I think I'm missing something there. Tell me what Clan Ordo is. Was that from like maybe Clone Wars or Rebels maybe? Or a comic? This brush is currently sort of dying a little bit, but I'm using that to my advantage. I've got like another brush pen that I can switch to, and what I think I can do with it is, because it's sort of feathering by itself, I can get some really nice rubber texture by just sort of like letting, like not pushing too hard and letting it come out with sort of a grainy texture. I think it's working. It looks better up close. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, Icon Games, about how they backtracked at the end, but the thing is, I think that you need to expect that in serialized superhero comics from Marvel and DC. They're going to take you on a different type of story, do something unique, but eventually it is going to reset to something close to the status quo. That is just the way serialized comics work, and how they can sort of keep going for a new audience. It can be frustrating, but you have to realize, like, I don't think it's ever intended to be for like one audience that like grows with it. I think it's supposed to constantly reset for new readers, and that's just how it is. So you can like jump in and enjoy an arc here and there, but it's not always going to be for the old reader. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if I'm describing it quite right. It's obviously a little late. No, I'm not reading Morbius the Living Vampire. Is that any good? This is the way. Knights of the Old Republic. I did play Knights of the Old Republic. I just don't remember it. I don't remember it very well. I guess maybe I'll have to look into playing it again someday. I remember that the sequel was pretty good too, but boy, I definitely remember that I liked playing Knights of the Old Republic a lot. It felt like you really were getting deeply engrossed in the story. Just working on these tires, and I will pop my head up in just a sec to see these comments and questions. Very grateful to have some company here today. Always a little bit of a trick when you're starting like a new channel, basically. They don't have to do that, though. They had a workaround with the Ultimate Universe and just forgot why they did it or something. I missed something. Sorry. Loved the sequel. Writing style was a lot less exclamation point focused, too, which was a big plus. Yeah, I remember liking both. I just don't 100% remember everything that it was about. Bear with me, I'm gonna look up in just a sec. Almost with everybody. Alright, let's see. Something about cats. My cat decided to watch you live stream. That's awesome. Where are my cats? They must be sleeping in the bathroom. There's a comfy floor mat in there around the corner that they like. I was just referring to Marvel and DC always resetting. The Ultimate Universe was supposed to be a way to do that. Yeah, but it went like a little over 10 years and it was time to reset that, you know? So I don't think the average person isn't going to be reading the same superhero for 10 years. So you have to reset and like bring in a new audience. Just how it is, I guess. Has anybody here been able to watch the current season of Rick and Morty? I don't have cable right now, so I haven't seen it, and I really like that show. I was just curious if anybody has been enjoying it, is just overall. I've been having a problem with my cat. He keeps peeing inside. Ooh. Well, Shane, that could definitely be the sign of something a little more serious. I mean, it could just be stress, which you can look into, but it could be something more serious. So definitely consider taking him to your vet and making sure that, you know, he doesn't have something like a kidney infection, because that can be pretty serious. Definitely just worth double checking to make sure that your cat is healthy. Yeah. Continuity fixes tend to be a necessary evil after a point. Yep, they do. Sorry if you already mentioned it. Get anything special for Christmas? I mean, I got nice stuff. I wouldn't say that I got anything necessarily special. I mean, that almost sounds like I'm not appreciative. I'm appreciative of what I got. I just, you know, I didn't ask for anything big, and I didn't really get anything big. I got a lot of thoughtful things. So my family was kind to me. Yeah. But it was nice. It was nice. It was low-key. Chrissy and I stayed home, but had her parents over, and Chrissy cooked us a turkey, and I think it was the best job she's ever done. She's cooked turkey before. It's always been good. This one I thought was something special. It just really had flavor. I thought it came out great. With all the traditional sides. So we had a nice traditional dinner. Had her parents over and all open presents, and yeah, overall it wasn't really a stressful day or anything. And the only thing was I was kind of coming down with a cold at the time, so I was pretty low energy. And then I went back to work for like the next 4 days until like today's been a day off, and that was tough. I just, you know, I'm not one to take time off usually if I'm sick. I just usually suck it up. But it was definitely a tough time keeping it together and all. But I was doing well at work, so I wanted to sort of just stay on that path. And yeah, so like Christmas I got a little sick, but getting a little better now. I'm subscribed to Film Theory, so that's how I get any Rick and Morty info. Oh, okay. Did they review it, I guess? I don't know Film Theory. But thank you for joining, Care Bear. I'll watch season 1 of Rick and Morty. Keep meaning to go back. I love it. Rick gives Morty a dragon. All right. That's cool. Don't kill me, but as bad as One More Day is, I really dislike MJ, so I don't hate the idea of splitting them up. That's fair. Sometimes it's interesting to have, you know, the Peter single, I guess. I think Mary Jane is a really good partner for him, but I just don't care for that execution. It's just too supernatural for Spider-Man. And Spider-Man you could do almost any kind of a story with, and that's kind of cool. You know, you can give him, like, you know, sometimes he does fight an alien or you know, some supernatural creature, because he'll meet everybody in the Marvel universe, and he lives in a really crazy world. But I think the stories that work best, that actually tell us something about Peter Parker, are based more on science gone awry. That's how he got his powers, and that's how most of his enemies got their powers. They abused science, and it led to something weird. So he's more of a sci-fi based character, and I think that's where he works best. So to have such an important story, you know, separating Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson, to have such an important story be based supernaturally, that fundamentally didn't work for me. But I made an episode about it and talked through some of the issues that I had with it, so I don't need to rehash that. Yeah, Sins Past is another terrible idea. Terrible. I'll have to discuss that one someday, but ugh. Biggest Spider-Man question is, when are the movies going to finally have him out of school? I don't know. I'm not in a rush, though, because we've gotten a bunch of other Spider-Man movies where he's gotten out of school, you know? By the... What do you call it? By the end of the first movie in 2002, he was already in college. And, you know, Spider-Man was created as a guy that was in high school originally. So I kind of like having a young Spider-Man that isn't super efficient and professional and stuff yet. I like a Spider-Man that's finding his way in the world. We'll see. We'll see. These pens aren't doing great. Editorial mandates are never good for stories. Yes. It would be interesting if they'd explored Peter juggling fighting crime, also being a parent. Yeah, it is. We've gotten basically some sort of Elseworlds type stories like that. You know, Secret Wars, and what else? Spider Girl, which is set in an alternate future. And it works. I think Spider-Man as a parent is a really interesting character. You know, he's a good parent. He wants to be like his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May, and it's cool seeing a heroic superhero parent. There's not tons of them. One of my critiques this past week on the Batman run was Robin pops up several times, but Tom King didn't ever seem too interested in exploring Bruce as a parent. You know, he didn't really do those stories. He did Bruce as a son, which totally worked for me, but I would have liked to have seen Bruce as a parent a little bit more. I think it's an underdeveloped area of Batman's lore. I mean, he's had Robin almost forever, but just don't see too many stories where he's a parent. Don't know why that is. Fingers crossed that Charlie Cox's Daredevil will be in Spider-Man. Yeah, I'd love that. I don't think he will, but I'd love it. It's possible. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. There's definitely been rumors, but everything I've read has been very unsubstantiated. I don't believe in any of the rumors yet. But that said, like personally, I've always loved that Peter Parker is friends with Human Torch and Daredevil as far as superheroes go. He's legit friends with them. He trusts them more than other superheroes, you know? And I've always found that interesting, and I would love to see that explored. You don't see a lot of superhero partnerships. There's sidekicks, but there's not a lot of partnerships. In the movies, they've sort of actually emphasized that, now that I think of it, because Iron Man gets War Machine, and it's kind of a partnership there. Certainly, Captain America and Falcon are basically presented as partners. But in comics themselves, like, we only get that, like, here and there. Iron Fist and Power Man was a comic I really liked when I was a kid, because it was really unique seeing two superheroes that were just best friends and partners. And that was a dynamic I felt like didn't get explored enough in comics. That's really interesting. And I'd love, like, a movie that was just, like, you know, full on, just Spider-Man and blank, you know? I also sort of think that it would be a good idea, although I don't expect it to happen, but I think it would be a good idea if they introduced the Fantastic Four through Spider-Man. Like, what if Peter had an internship at Four Freedoms Plaza? His storyline worked really well with Tony Stark. What would he be like being mentored by Reed Richards? He could become friends with Human Torch and Ben Grimm, maybe even before they all become superheroes. I don't know. I think that would be a really interesting idea They actually set a tiny bit of groundwork in the last Spider-Man movie, right at the end when he's swinging past, the former Avengers Tower, which we now know has been emptied out and everything. It says, like, stay tuned for something exciting on, like, a construction sign. And, I mean, that's a pretty obvious, like, reference to the Fantastic Four. I think that they would work very well within a Spider-Man movie, and it could be a pretty cool way to introduce them into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But that's just me being a fan and daydreaming. Yeah, the working superhero idea of Power Man and Iron Fist was cool, too. They were superheroes, and they'd be selfless, but they'd also sometimes do it for money. And, I mean, we used to get that as a kid. Like, we'd have shows like The A-Team, and sometimes they just, like, took a job for money, and sometimes at the end they'd be like, keep your money. Haha, it was fun to fight crime, and we'll just stay on the run and act poor. But other times they would take the money from, like, a rich client. Magnum P.I. would take money from clients to, do investigations and stuff. He was still a hero, but he'd take their money. And I kind of like the idea of a working class set of superheroes. Didn't always make perfect sense, since usually Danny Rand, Iron Fist, was portrayed as being, like, really rich. But it was still fun. They basically have to constantly go back and forth being, you lost your money, you gained your money, you lost your money, you gained your money. Stan Lee used to narrate Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I love that. Face front, true believers. Sometimes we deal with people that are more heroic than others, and other times we meet some sadistic villains. This week, Spider-Man and his amazing friends are on a far-out journey to college. Just sort of... Yeah, he also narrated The Incredible Hulk. Somewhere deep in the desert. I'm just making stuff up, but that's the kind of stuff he'd do. It was great. I miss Stan, I really do. I'm glad I got to meet him a couple times. He did a lot to promote comics, if nothing else. If nothing else, he did a lot to promote comics. Quite a salesman. Who could play Doctor Doom? Lots of people. Lots of people. I'd go with somebody... from Europe is all. I'd definitely go with an actor from Europe. Personally, my first choice would be somebody who's already played somebody within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would go with, hold on, all of a sudden I'm blanking on a name. Who's the guy that played the villain in Doctor Strange? He also played Hannibal. He was the villain in Casino Royale. What actor am I thinking of? It's not coming to me. Daniel Day-Lewis, I mean, could you only imagine? I'm totally blanking on the actor's name. Hopefully somebody out there can help me if you know who I'm talking about. Mads Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen. Thank you. Mads Mikkelsen as Doctor Doom. Don't you think that would work really well? I think he's got, like, that sort of, like, he could play pompous and fiercely intelligent and charismatic, and I don't know, I would just love that. That would work for me. Probably not going to happen since he already played a villain. But he would be my first choice. Maybe somebody like Christoph Waltz. Maybe he's a little older, but I don't know. He's certainly an interesting guy. But you could probably also go with some sort of British guy that I've never heard of that's on, like, a hit TV show, and he'd probably knock it out of the park. I don't know. What about Henry Cavill? I know he's Superman, but what about Henry Cavill? I feel like he could do a good job. I don't know. Just brainstorming. Daniel Craig? Maybe. That's an interesting idea. Didn't I write a screenplay with him as the villain? No, not me. Peter Serafinowicz. Well, he played one of the Nova Corps, so he's also been in a Marvel movie. But he certainly he could do a great voice. Among other things, Peter Serafinowicz, he played the Tick, but he's really funny, and he's got a great deep voice. He did the voice of Darth Maul in the original Star Wars Phantom Menace movie. Though they did not have him do the voice for the cameo in Solo. They actually went with Sam Witwer, who had been doing the voice of Darth Maul on the Clone Wars cartoon. It's a crazy story. Like, Peter Serafinowicz said that they did bring him in, and he recorded all his lines, and he went to the premiere, and they hadn't used his voice and hadn't told him. Isn't that crazy? He was like, what happened to my role? Kind of rude. I like Peter Serafinowicz. He's a really funny guy on Twitter, too. John Cryer played a great Lex Luthor. Yes, you're saying that he was like the Byrne-type Luthor, L.S. Krieger, and I don't know that was intentional, but that totally came across to me as well. He really struck me as John Byrne's Doctor Doom. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. And I liked it. I thought he did a great job. I'm very excited to see how the final 2 episodes of CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths turn out. Not too much longer until that comes back. It's a TV budget, but they're pulling out all the stops, at least in terms of the cameos and actors that they can bring in. And that means a lot. Here's what needs to happen, though. All these great cameos and everything, come on, they got to get in Linda Carter as Wonder Woman. They've got to. She's played a role on Supergirl, so obviously she's available. She's got to play Wonder Woman in a cameo. Otherwise, come on. If you can bring in like Batman 89 and Batman 66 and, Kingdom Come Superman, Smallville Superman, Lucifer from another network, and you can't get Linda Carter, that would hurt. Jeremy Irons is Doctor Doom. His voice, great. He couldn't really play him if he ever had to have the mask off or anything like that, like if we saw him before. Well, we've still got 2 episodes, Icon, right? So it's entirely possible Linda Carter could still show up. I would be very disappointed if somehow they can't find a way to work her in somewhere. Maybe they can't get the rights to Wonder Woman. That's the only thing I can think of. If so, still put her in somewhere. Still put her in somewhere. Because Crisis has been all about just sort of like... I mean, if you're going to show the Huntress from that, 13-episode Fox TV show in, 1998 or whatever it was, and you can't get Linda Carter, that would be a shame. That's all. That would be a shame. The Flash scene was great. Flash scene was fantastic. They got that right. I'm really impressed with what they've been juggling. Doom doesn't need his mask off to be in the movies. Doesn't need to. Just saying that if he did, they'd have to cast somebody younger. Exactly. Hello, watchful and harmonious subscriber. Who would Christian Bale play in the MCU? How about Norman Osborn? I don't know. Late to the party, what am I drawing? Just drawing a motorcycle and a friend of mine. I owe him a gift. He does not know I'm doing this. But he's really into his motorcycle, and I thought it would be fun to illustrate him with his specific motorcycle, Triumph Bonneville. So that's what I'm hard at work at here. And I hope I can do it justice. You know, I hope he likes it. Otherwise, all this effort is wasted. I'm just kidding. It's fun just to draw, and it's an excuse to talk to all of you, which is also really fun. Back to work tomorrow. Tomorrow's Christmas. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve, isn't it? Anybody going out for New Year's Eve? Where I'm working tomorrow night and working the next day, I am not going out. I think Chrissy and I will just do some sort of low-key celebration at home. But if you're planning on going out, let me know. That's kind of cool. You're going out, Gene? Tom Hardy is Dr. Doom with the Bane Boys.
This is Dr. Doom. You think you're so smart, Reed Richards? I am the smartest.
I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't have a good line.
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. Now is not the time for screaming. That comes later.
I have so much fun trying to do that voice, even if it's not good. You're going to Angie's. Good. I'm glad you're going out. I hope you have fun. My friend's having a party, so either that or my other friend. I might see as many films as possible in the theater tomorrow. That sounds fun. Good luck, JoJo. Blue World says, my family celebrated New Year's Eve yesterday to account for all the people leaving the state. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, we'll take it easy.
Doom is the smartest. Do you feel in charge?
That's me laying my hand on somebody's shoulder.
Do you feel in charge?
Christian Bale is Sabretooth. Maybe. Maybe. But Christian Bale is a new Magneto. I don't know. No. Now that I said it, I can't say it. And you should probably get, like, a really Jewish actor if you wanted to be, like, kind of honest to the character and everything. That's a pretty important part of Magneto's character, his heritage. Christian Bale is Cyclops. Too old now. Too old. If they're going to do Cyclops, they're going to get somebody that's in their 20s, you know, because they're going to want to make a couple movies with it. And so they're going to go young. They just will. Basically, if somebody's in their 40s, you can count on Marvel casting them as only a villain or a mentor. Like, they're not going to be the main hero anymore. They did it with Robert Downey Jr., but they also didn't necessarily know how much mileage they were going to get out of Robert Downey Jr. And Robert Downey Jr. worked hard to keep himself in great shape for that role. But when you think about it, like they're hoping to do like at least a trilogy for every character that they get. So you got to consider that could be at least 9 years. They're going to want to get somebody in their late 20s at most. I don't know, Gene. I don't know. I meant actually more than like really. Patrick Bateman is the actual villain of the piece.
Such a lovely singing voice.
I think that's, in a way, my favorite moment of Bane in the Dark Knight Rises, where he's just about to blow up the whole football stadium, but he waits for, like, the kid to finish singing the national anthem, just because he goes, oh, such a lovely singing voice, and then he blows everything up. I'm like, all right. It's like Bane is terrible, but he has like this appreciation for like the arts on some level. He's not a complete like savage, despite how he's sort of all muscle and everything. He's a smart guy, and I kind of liked that moment. It added a quite a bit of nuance to his character, I thought. I like Tom Hardy's Bane a lot. I really did. I didn't see how anybody could follow up on Heath Ledger's Joker at the time, so I went in with like kind of low expectations, and Hardy blew me away. And I noticed, and I was like, all right, I've liked Hardy in everything I've seen him in. I got to start paying even closer attention to this guy. He's great. Have Bane sing.
Zippity doo dah, zippity a.
MCU Doom also needs to come face to face with Luke Cage. Yeah. Where's my money, honey? Even in that Star Trek movie. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, where he plays Picard's clone. He was a really young actor at the time. I still don't blame Tom Hardy for any of that. That was just not a well-written Star Trek movie. I know what you're talking about. How wild would it be to introduce Doom as a former student of sorcery in the next Doctor Strange? Yeah, I mean, I see where you're going there. I just don't think that Doom would have invested that kind of time. I think he only has studied magic, to honor his mother, who was like some sort of a gypsy magician, and because he's seen that it works. Because otherwise he's really dedicated his life to the pursuit of science. And so I just don't believe he would have had the patience, more than anything else, to study under any Sorcerer Supreme. I just don't see him having the patience to commit to that. Doom with magic is all about shortcuts. He'll make a deal with the devil, or study on his own, like to understand, like, just enough to give himself an edge over somebody else. But he doesn't really respect it like he respects science. Christopher Walken. I don't know who Christopher Walken could play at this point. But he played Max Schreck in Batman Returns, so, he had his shot at being in a superhero movie. Hey Milo, you want to jump over here? Sorry, my cat's kind of nearby, but I guess he doesn't really want to come over here. He just decided to sleep on the couch. That's okay. He can do whatever he wants. Yeah, I agree. I think that Doom is one of the best supervillains. Ridiculously big goals and ambitions, but as smart and cunning as possible, and has an interesting backstory that can make him somewhat believable. Just happens to be a guy with a big ego at the end of the day, and some of that ego is warranted because he's just so smart. Milo needs a dog pal named Otis. Maybe. But he's got me. I'm a pretty good buddy to him. I'm going to give him a hug. Hold on. Hi. Yeah. Ugh. You don't get to see this guy as much. I know Chibi's popped up on my show a few times, but Milo's a little more shy. But he's a good boy. I love this silly boy. You keeping yourself clean? Let's look at your toes. Yeah, that's pretty good, I guess. Are you going to binge watch Lock and Key? If I have time, I definitely will. I haven't had time to binge watch what you call it, Witcher yet, but that's an episode I'll be doing pretty soon for Comic Tropes. I've got a friend that lives in Poland where The Witcher is from, and he got me some of the Witcher comics, and he's helping me translate them. Sorry, he put his foot in my mouth, and I got some hair in there. So that's an episode I'll be doing at some point in the near future, is the original Witcher comics from Poland. And I'll want to compare that to the Netflix version, so I have to watch that soon. Who made the Witcher comics? I forget the name of the artist and that. Sorry. I'll know it by the time I make my episode, and I've looked at it, but I haven't memorized it. Sorry. I think that they brought some of them over here to America, but not all of them. They started coming out back in like 1993. You watched it already, Gene? Is it good? I think if they do Secret Invasion, they'll find a way to use the Kree as the enemy, because I think that like they've sort of swapped the Kree and the Skrull in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we'll see. We'll see. He gave me the time stone. I hid this uncomfortable hunk of a stone up my ass for 2 years. Then, after 7 years, I was sent home to my family. And now, little man, I give the time stone to you. That's a bad impression because I am really congested. I could not get it out right. I just couldn't. I'm really congested. Yeah, the Kree were the bad guys in Captain Marvel. I think that they're going to be the bad guys in general. I don't think that like they're going to and the Kree have always been bad guys, but the Skrulls have also sort of been traditional bad guys, and I don't think that they've really been established as bad people though here. And I sort of feel like if they do Secret Invasion, they might find a way to sort of swap that up somehow, and have the Kree as more of the enemy. But we'll see. It's just a random speculation. It's just to sort of change it up a little bit. You ever see Christopher Walken in The Deer Hunter? That was a good role. I also really liked him in True Romance. That was another good one. Dead Zone. Dead Zone is a fantastic Christopher Walken role. He's a good actor. Annie Hall. I really like Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Yeah, Turok Dinosaur Hunter is a great property, great comic. That would make for a pretty cool TV show or movie. Let's see how what is it? Bloodshot does, and we'll see if we get any more Valiant movies after that. feel like Vin Diesel, for some reason, just like can't quite like he had this time where he was on the rise, but now it's outside of Fast and Furious. Doesn't seem like most of his stuff really connects, you know, with a big audience. But we'll see. Who can forget Christopher Walken in Batman Returns? Yeah, I just we'd talked about that one earlier, so I wasn't trying to repeat myself. But he was great in Batman Returns. Oh, the Russian roulette scene, it's just charming. Vin Diesel just seems like The Rock without charisma. I sort of know what you mean, but he used to have charisma, and he does in the certain role. Like, I do like him as Riddick. I really do. I like the character of Riddick, and I like Dominic Toretto for the most part in the Fast and Furious movies, and he's done some good drama. Like, if you ever saw Boiler Room, pretty good. He's good in that, and he was good in Saving Private Ryan. Just something like those Triple X movies, and he's done other stuff. It doesn't connect. Max Schreck played Nosferatu. Yep. Who would Vanilla Ice play if they cast Vanilla Ice in a Marvel movie? We got to see him in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Who would he play in Marvel? I think he would play one of the construction workers that works for the organization Damage Control, repairing the neighborhood after supervillain battles. By the way, that would make an excellent TV show. Damage Control. You don't have to actually really get superhero cameos per se. You just sort of have them like refer to them. I think that would be kind of funny to not like even like show them, but to like constantly say like, oh, the Hulk smashed up downtown Harlem. It's up to us to fix it. If anything, like what would be cool is to just say that it was like this joint venture between Wilson Fisk and Tony Stark. Well, Tony Stark's dead, I guess, but somebody at Tony Stark's company. That would be kind of interesting, and have like proxies constantly battling to get more than 50% of Damage Control because it's such a great company. I don't know. If you don't know Damage Control, it's a really funny comic set in Marvel Comics. They're the company that like is the best at repairing things quickly after superhero battles. Funny idea. Pepper Potts and Fisk. Yeah. Vanilla Ice could be Paste Pot Pete. You got it. Paste Pot Pete. I love that idea. Yes. Let's get Vanilla Ice in as my favorite supervillain, Paste Pot Pete. None of this calling him the Trapster. He's Paste Pot Pete, and that's just how it is. Paste Pot Pete do 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 do. Paste Pot Pete do 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 do. Paste Pot Pete. That would be his theme song. I just made that up. It's not based on anything else. Paste Pot Pete do 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 do. Paste Pot Pete do 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 do. Paste Pot Pete. Chris, you're evil. Yes, I am. Is it amazing? Thank you for joining Tiny Fried Eggs. By the way, this is great. Thank you so much to so many of you for jumping in. Obviously, starting this new channel's tricky and stuff, but really grateful to have some folks in here. Doing baby bottles. All right. Thank you for stopping by. Sing to your child my new song, Paste Pot Pete. Do. He once glued Thor's hammer to the ground. Did that work? I would think all it would do is rip up a chunk of the ground, if anything. That should not work. If even the Juggernaut cannot stop Mjolnir, then Paste Pot Pete's glue should not. Ah, comics. Sing it so he stops. Solvent Bottle Sue to the rescue. Just started Generation X. Would I ever do an episode on Scott Lobdell? Maybe. I'm not against the idea. I definitely read plenty of his comics when I was younger. I can't say that I was ever a huge fan, though. He was always just like okay, in my opinion. Which is better than bad. It's just, do I have much to say about him? Well, I'll give it some serious thought. I'll give that some serious thought. That's all I can say right now. Paste Pot Pete wouldn't be a bad name for a rapper. No. What do you think of Daniel Radcliffe being Moon Knight? If it goes through, I think that, he's a great actor, so I'm sure that it would raise the overall quality of the project. I think in order to work right, it does need a good actor. I like Moon Knight. He's got a lot of potential, but he's also a pretty weird character, and to the mainstream, relatively obscure. So to work, they're going to need a really good crew and a really good cast, so that people will give it a chance. And then, if they give it a chance, and they have that good crew, including, like a writer and a director and a producer to sort of like tell them yes and no, then maybe it'll work. Moon Knight is a tricky proposition, but definitely one worth trying. We don't get too many superheroes that are, essentially mentally unstable, like legit, have mental health issues. So I definitely think that there's something unique and cool that you could do with him. I didn't read your Paste Pot ice wrap. I'm sorry. Every once in a while I'm looking down and drawing. Let's see. Hopefully Mandalorian has set a high bar for Disney. I hope so. I loved it. Sorry I missed your Paste Pot Pete ice wrap, Nagiad. Sorry about that. Yeah, Radcliffe could definitely pull off mental illness. Totally agree. He's a capable actor. And if you want to see him in a role where he's had mental challenges, I mean, what was that one that he did? It was based on something Joe Hill wrote. Horns. It's an interesting sort of role where he's just dealing with extreme depression in a very convincing way. Hell, he played a good dead guy in Swiss Army Man. Moon Knight's separate personalities started as disguises when he came out in the 70s and 80s, But eventually that blew out to full-on dissociative identity disorder, and it's been explicitly identified as such. And he has some serious challenges with his overall mental health. He legit has other personalities, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's fairly unique. Did I see the Kevin Smith video with Sienkiewicz? No. Where would I find something like that, Jojo? I am definitely a big fan of Bill Sienkiewicz, so if there's some sort of like an interview or something like that with him, I would really like to see it. Where was it posted or shared? If Sienkiewicz himself shared it, I totally missed it. What powers does Moon Knight have? So that depends. Does he have powers? Originally, when he was originally introduced, he did have powers. He could get stronger during the phases of the moon. The more full the moon was, he basically had super strength, and he was literally guided by Khonshu as his avatar on Earth. Khonshu being a god, an Egyptian god of like travel and of the night. But eventually, it was sort of like retconned to say that he may have only thought those things, and he may not have like literally had super strength. He basically just has a lot of money. He was a Marine and then a mercenary, so he's like a highly trained fighter. He's an expert and very proficient with all sorts of weapons. Like the kind of basically like an athlete on the level of Daredevil, good with weapons on the level of like the Punisher, can go toe to toe with characters along the lines of a Captain America or a Taskmaster. Can go toe to toe with them. Is that good of a fighter? Yeah, he was also a boxer, and so like Taskmaster has said that he doesn't want to use or copy Moon Knight's fighting style, because as a boxer, like Moon Knight is basically, he's willing to take a punch, he's willing to take a hit, and he's good at like, he's got a really high threshold for pain, apparently, like a really high threshold, and that means like he'll take more of a hit than like the next guy, and he can just keep going. And Taskmaster's like, yeah, that's not how I want to fight. So he's an interesting character. I would say that the Punisher still is a villain. I mean, he's been presented as like the protagonist, but I would say that the Punisher is a villain. I don't think he's he doesn't go around saving lives or anything, so yeah, I don't think that the Punisher is a hero. He's an anti-hero. No, I don't know. Could I imagine Disney being inspired by the Ellis run? Maybe a little bit. I think that Ellis gave me one of the versions of I love Ellis's version of Moon Knight. I'll leave it there. One of the most recent, but I really think he did some interesting stuff with him. Yeah, I could imagine them being a little inspired by that. I'll take a look at the comments in one moment. Just doing a little bit of fine lines here. All right, what are we saying? Do I think Batman would bust people growing weed? Nah, I don't think he'd care about that at all. He only cares about violent crime. He only cares about saving lives, like, in the moment. Yeah, the Punisher is a mass shooter. That's 100% correct. And, yeah. Let's see. If you could have Legendary remake any old Toho Godzilla film, which would I choose? Oh, fun. Which one would I choose? Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Yeah, that's what I do. Fun question, thanks. Love me some Godzilla. Gotta go back to work tomorrow. It's hard only getting one day off, you know? I think I complained about that earlier, though, so I'll shut up. I love Godzilla. How about Godzuki? From the cartoon? Not a lot, no. A remake of Destroy All Monsters? Maybe, but we sort of just got that, and it was only okay. Yeah. But I'm not against it. I've got the Criterion collection of the Godzilla box set. Yeah, I've got that. I hope they make a couple more of it. You know, for like the films in like the 80s and the 90s and stuff. But yeah, I got the one of like everything from the 50s through the 70s. Love me Godzilla. I don't know why, I just love humongous monsters, but I specifically love Godzilla a lot. But yeah, I also loved the Pacific Rim movie. Well, movies, I kind of like the second one. It's not bad. It just isn't as good as the first. But, yeah, I like Godzilla. History shows again and again how nature points out the folly of man. Godzilla. I wish I could just play music on this channel and not get demonetized. That would be fun. I would definitely be playing Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla right now if I could. It's in my head. I hope it's in yours too. Giant monsters are fun. I did not see Colossal yet. I do want to see Colossal, but I haven't seen it. I don't think anybody's going to try anytime soon to do Gamera in the US. I don't think that he really has the same name brand recognition. I don't think most people would know what Gamera is. The modern look of Gamera in like the most recent movies was good. I liked it, but I just don't think Gamera quite has the same name recognition to be profitable for how much you'd have to spend to make it right. But here's what could happen is maybe someday Japan makes another Gamera movie and it's just so good that it becomes popular like worldwide instead of just there, and then maybe they'd make something like that over here. But I think that's what needs to happen is like Gamera needs to be more popular than it is. MST3K did give Gamera some publicity, but That was also a while ago. I don't think he's too well remembered here. You know, maybe you guys disagree, but I don't think that Gamera is well known enough to get a movie made here. I'd love to be wrong. It doesn't strike me as something that could happen right now. Gamera is friend to children everywhere. Mecha Streisand movie? Sure. It's like if America made a live-action Ultraman movie. I don't think it will work. Yeah, I kind of agree. And Ultraman, I think, has even more name recognition than Gamera, but I don't think that a movie would work. Like, maybe a TV show over here for that could work, you know? Power Rangers have been going a long, long time. I think that that's a possibility. Test it out by doing a Netflix movie? Yeah, maybe. Hello, Montreal. Hello from America. Hello in Quebec. ROM was rebooted by IDW a few years ago. Did that do well? I feel like it sort of fizzled out. No, not New Year's Eve over here yet. That's tomorrow. Where are you, Rebel? Where are you? It's only 10 here. Dark Horse had a kaiju fighting superhero. Did they? I can't remember that. Huh. It's not coming to me. My memory is flawed, I guess. Let me switch pens real quick. 3 p.m. December 31st here in Osaka. Osaka. Okay, yes, you are well ahead of me. Happy New Year's Eve. Love Osaka. Don't know when I'll get back to Japan, but next time I visit, I'm definitely planning on visiting Kyoto and Osaka, because it's been too long since I've been there. In the back of our minds, Chrissy and I are up for like moving to Japan if we could basically afford to. But basically the only way I can think of that would be realistic is if somehow I became like a YouTuber that made their living off of YouTube, and then I could live wherever. And if that could happen, we would live in Japan. We would move there at least for a few years. We may come back, but like, you know, we would. I think that she likes that idea. I like that idea. I think she likes that idea. Well, that reminds me, I'm going to upload something else to this channel, Pros and Cons. I've got footage of driving through Japan in go-karts for the whole trip. I recorded the whole thing. I'm just going to upload that as sort of like a bonus. Live action version of Apache Chief. Yeah, Chuck. My wife and I could show you some good food spots next time you're in Osaka. Well, yeah. Takes a bit learning the spoken and written language. That's the thing that's really prevented me too. Yeah, I have published comics for Brad. I've self-published quite a few, but it's been a while since I've done that. But yeah, when I was living in D.C., which was going back now like about 6 years, I helped form a group of artists and writers that liked comics, and we would meet once a month, and we began self-publishing anthologies. We'd publish themed anthologies, and some of them would also publish actual sort of like educational comics through real publishers, and a lot of us would work on some of those books as well. So yeah, I've got a few books out there, but like I say out there, the self-published stuff, I don't know where you'd get it. I just, yeah, that's like, I've got some hard copies, but, and I'm sure some of my fellow artists do, but basically I don't know where. There's nowhere online that sells that stuff. But the educational comics and stuff I did, I've got like 3 of those that you could find in like, you know, most bookstores, certainly on Amazon and stuff. One is called Trickster. It's all about like, it was written by actual like Native American members of various tribes, telling their tribe's version of a trickster legend, whether that's a god or a person or a spirit, and I illustrated a story in that, and that was actually nominated for an Eisner. So I'm an artist in an Eisner nominated book, and then also Colonial Comics volumes 1 and 2 I did stories in, and those were all written by historians. So yeah, I've self-published a bunch of stuff, like more than I can count, and I've been in a few published like comics, but they're like educational comics as compared to mainstream superhero stuff. I've got several ideas of stuff that I would like to, that I've written, that I'd like to hire an artist for, but I don't feel like right now I have the funds to pay that artist, so I've backburnered that until I feel like I can really afford to offer a good wage for all of it. New Year's Eve in Texas now. That's early. Any rumblings of your friend Kirkman doing a new Walking Dead? Not comics. He's moved on to some other ideas in comics, but he does have that 3rd Walking Dead show that will be debuting on AMC sometime later next year. So he's got 3 Walking Dead TV shows. And there could be books. There could be books, but I think we're done with the comics. Yeah, his next book is Firepower. So that's something with art by Chris Samney that will be coming out in the near future. Keep your eyes out for that. It does look interesting from the little I've seen. Yeah, there's not a lot of Latino superheroes. That's definitely true. Hey, happy birthday, Ellis Krieger. Happy birthday. That's awesome. I probably have enough of a following to do an Indiegogo. Yeah, you know, maybe. If I did, you know, I'd want to be careful that I'm not, like, gouging anyone. And the other thing is I'd really want to have it done before I do a Kickstarter, you know, so that I'm sure that I could fulfill it in a really timely manner. So that's what's tricky, is I'd still have to sort of pay my artist ahead of time if I want to do it that way. The only other thing I could think is, like, you know, if I could find an artist who was a little patient, I could basically pay them to do, you know, 6 to 10 pages, cover. We could pitch it, and if somebody accepted it, then I could, like, you know, continue paying them for, like, all the rest of the pages, but we wouldn't need the whole book to pitch it. So But I also I don't feel like I really even have enough to pay for like that right now because that I need at least a thousand or two. And I don't feel like I've got that as extra right now at all. The current Blue Beetle is Latino. Yeah, there's some good examples. There's just not tons of them. This drawing reminds me of the type of artwork you'd see in Vampire the Masquerade RPG book. Yeah, I guess so, because that was like Tim Bradstreet, and he does a very photorealistic style with lots of deep blacks, so I can understand where you're coming from there. I can understand how it could be reminiscent of that. Not really my intent, but I'm not against it. Yeah. Has anybody seen how ripped Kumail Nanjiani has gotten himself for the upcoming Eternals movie? Oh my god, I got a kick out of that. That was amazing. He's really committed to getting himself in superhero shape for his role in that next Marvel movie. I like Kumail. Kumail's really funny. Back before he really did any TV and he was just doing stand-up, I interviewed him on one of my old podcasts. We talked about video games and stuff a lot. It was a lot of fun, and I just have always liked him ever since then because he was so friendly, and it's been exciting seeing his career take off. But so I really like him, and just seeing him that ripped was like, oh my god, look at what you've done. That is amazing. Yeah, he's stupid. Did Bautista train him? No, but I think he definitely got advice. It seems like they got to be pretty good friends. Yeah, Angelina Jolie is definitely in Eternals. And hello, Taki. Let's see. I hope Eternals is good. Eternals was never my personal favorite Jack Kirby project. At the same time, it is Jack Kirby, so it could be interesting to see what they do with it. It's got potential. I've always felt that Eternals worked best if you literally sort of take Eternals, New Gods, and Thor as a very loose trilogy, because I think Kirby really had an idea of the old gods being torn down and the new gods coming in, and he wanted to talk about that. He wanted Ragnarok to happen, the old gods died, these new gods came in, and then there was the revenge from the old gods almost. And if you look at it that way, thematically, those three projects that he worked on form a very loose trilogy of basic ideas. No main characters, obviously, because you're going from Marvel to DC and back. But I think that tells an overall story that he wanted to tell in just one story. I do think New Gods was his sort of best stuff with gods. It was a little better than Eternals. That said, one thing he wasn't on Eternals for that long, but it does have some pretty cool artwork. It really does. So that was always kind of cool. And Taika Waititi obviously gave us some very Kirby-esque visuals in the last Thor movie, so it would be really cool to see some of those carry over into the cosmic side of Marvel. See some real Kirby aesthetics. I hope that the big thing about the Eternals is bringing in the Celestials. That would be cool. The Celestials are pretty terrifying. One extra funny thing is that, of course, Kirby really he did a 2001 comic that was set in the Marvel universe, and he made the black obelisk in the movie 2001 that basically helps mankind reach the next stage of evolution. In the comics, he made that something that was designed by the Celestials. So in his version of 2001, we do get to see the alien gods, and they're the Celestials, and that's kind of cool. So, yeah. I'll have to talk about Jack Kirby's 2001 sometime. That was pretty weird. Yeah, they've mentioned the Celestials. Like, the Celestials exist in the MCU. But, yeah, Machine Man was introduced in 2001. Exactly right. Pretty much the only, lasting element from his 2001 run. Yeah, Mark Mothersbaugh did another soundtrack that year that Ragnarok came out, and all of a sudden it's eluding me. But he did some good soundtracks that year. And how can you not like Devo, you know? Cool little weirdos. Wasn't Ego a Celestial? So in the comics, no, Ego is not a Celestial. In the MCU, apparently, Ego was a Celestial. Yeah, he called himself a Celestial. Anyway, could he have been exaggerating or lying? Yes, that's a possibility. Or perhaps the definition in the Marvel Cinematic Universe of what comprises a Celestial is broader than just the race of Celestials that we've seen in the comics. I'd love to see the MCU depict eternity. I think that there's a possibility, like maybe by the second or third Doctor Strange movie, that we could see that. I think that that's a possibility. Hi, Chibi. Do you want to say hi? Oh, you want water. All right. That's fair, too. Doomsday Clock was alright, but not worth the wait. Yeah, I'm still reading through it right now. Thoughts on Doomsday Clock? Don't have a final opinion yet. We'll share it with you guys soon. Will the Beyonders make an appearance in the MCU? Maybe someday. Maybe that's more for something like a Fantastic Four movie. I don't know. Got a song in my head. I'm thinking of the Ramones. I Want to Be Sedated, because people have been making this joke online. They're going, it's almost Ramones time. There's a line in the song, what do you call it? I Want to Be Sedated, that goes, a 24 hours ago. And if you write that out, 2020, 24 hours to go, that would mean that at midnight tonight, my time anyway, some of you are ahead in Japan, but New Year's Eve is 2020, 24 hours to go. Yeah, everybody's got it, but it's been in my head ever since I saw that. I love the Ramones, by the way. When I was a teenager, I went to a Pearl Jam concert, and the Ramones were opening for them, and Pearl Jam was good. I liked Pearl Jam. I loved the Ramones. I was like, I did not go there to see the Ramones, but I realized that I just liked the Ramones. I was like, this is more my speed. I like punk stuff, and I don't know. I like the Ramones a lot. That's all. It was a good memory. 2024 hours ago, I wanna be sedated. You know, they've been making these movies about, like, you know, Freddie Mercury and Elton John, and the Elton John one was actually especially good, but I would love to see a movie about the Ramones, because that was a group that, like, you know, stuck together till, like, they were basically all dead, but it went through some membership changes, and they didn't get along that well, but they didn't break up the band over it. So, yeah. A bit slow on the draw. Me? Oh. Yeah, I know what you're talking about with John Byrne's story arc where the Thing stays as Ben Grimm on the Beyonders planet. Yeah, that was cool. My dad saw the Ramones live for free. Very good for him. I'd love to see a Pink Floyd Syd Barrett movie. Yeah, that would also be interesting. We're at the point where, you know, it's history, but it's relatively recent history, and a lot of these guys that were, like, popular in the 60s and 70s have really interesting life stories, and I don't know. What's the next Comic Tropes vid? Tell you what, usually I don't tell you guys, but I strongly implied it in the last video, and there's not that many people watching, and it should be ready, hopefully, within the week. The next video will be about Doomsday Clock. That's my plan. That's what I'm working on. I'm still, like, rereading and thinking about it and digesting my thoughts, but that's what I will be talking about. And then after that, I will try to get into some funnier and lighter stuff, because I'm talking about some, like, big DC runs that are, like, you know, not universally beloved or anything, so I want to get into some fun stuff too. Working against the clock, yeah. I usually don't like to give it away, but there's not that many people here, so I'm just telling you that's what I'm working on. It's hard. I have not done a Mike Allred Madman Tropes video. Big fan of Mike Allred. Definitely really like Madman. I do talk a little bit about Mike Allred in my video about Ecstatics, which he made with Peter Milligan. So I talk a little bit about him there, but someday I plan to do a video about his work with Madman. I already did the tick. Yes I did. I like the ending. Okay, the way to get there wasn't that great. Do you have any fave things about the old Star Wars expanded universe? Well, I didn't, like, at a certain point I sort of got overwhelmed and stopped reading so much Star Wars stuff, but I was into the Star Wars, as it's now sort of called, the expanded universe, when it really started becoming a thing in the early 90s. I read the Admiral Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn, and I thought it was fantastic. I really liked that. So, yeah, that's a big one. At the time, they also had new comics by Dark Horse. They had just gotten the license, and I really liked Dark Empire, which brought in the idea of a cloned Emperor Palpatine who came back as an enemy. Gee, what an original idea. And so I liked both of those quite a bit at the time, and I read a bunch of, like, the Star Wars novels. I would read basically all of them for the first few years, but at a certain point it sort of was pretty diminishing returns, and I had read a couple that were pretty terrible. I want to say the Crystal Star was one that was pretty bad, and there was another where they, like, had, like, a super weapon called the Sun Crusher that couldn't be destroyed, and it had to be, like, sent into a what did it get sent into? It got sent into like a black hole to stop it. And I was like, all right. And I never really liked Han and Leia's kids, and there were tons of them. I don't know. So I got burned out on the Star Wars expanded universe. There was just too much of it. Splinter of the Mind's Eye. I remember reading that. That was before there really was such a thing as the idea of a Star Wars expanded universe. That was just... there was extra Star Wars here and there. Not a lot of it. So, yeah, Splinter of the Mind's Eye was just a novel that was made before Empire Strikes Back came out. I read it at the... Like, I was a pretty little kid, but I read that one. And I was just excited to get more Star Wars. It was alright. It holds up okay. It's a little weird. Meow. My kitty's pretty hungry. You can probably tell. What time is it? 10:20? Let me see. I'm gonna just see if Chrissy's willing to feed these guys while I draw. If not, then I'll have to end the stream. Mandalorian's great. The talking rabbit was right down there with the Star Wars holiday special. Yeah, Jaxon. The green badass bounty hunter rabbit. That was a key character in the early Marvel Comics Star Wars run. As a kid, I didn't mind the Marvel Comics Star Wars run because I was getting to see my favorite characters, but I wasn't the most critical reader at that age. Like, I was pretty young. I also liked the Transformers comic a few years later, but I look back and it wasn't that good of a comic. But you know what? Like, you also just sort of took what you could get because there was no real plans for, like, you know, big movies at that time. And you were just like, hey, it's more of my favorite characters. This is what I get. Yeah. I've had some fun. I've made, like, 2 episodes, like, looking at 2 different Marvel Comics Star Wars stories. One where Leia goes to a banking planet and battles Darth Vader for a bank loan. And another where Han Solo won't take a loan from the Rebel Alliance, but he really needs money to pay off debts. And so, yeah, like, talk about boring ideas. Where was all this idea for, like, you know, oh, people that love Star Wars are really concerned about people's money problems? Because as soon as we get the prequels, it's the Trade Federation is taxing trade routes too much, and this, that, and the other. It's like, I don't care about people's money problems during a time of intergalactic war. Where is all this coming from? But a bunch of those old comics also tried to make us care about people's personal banking. I don't care about Princess Leia's personal banking issues. I have not seen the Vader Valentine's comics. Did you know the old reason why the Star Destroyer follows the Tantive 4 in the beginning, A New Hope, is because the Silver Protocol droid is a sleeper agent empire? Oh my god. That was the thing that got me out of reading those books and stuff. I was reading them, and it's like every time you'd read something like Tales of the Bounty Hunters, or Tales of the Droids, or Tales of the Cantina, secretly, like, every character you saw in the background of any movie has this really elaborate and fascinating story where they're all, like, basically spies, either working for the Empire or working for the Rebel Alliance, and they're either setting up the Alliance or they've got the designs for the first Stormtrooper armor or something lame like that. And it was like everybody, you know, like, you're given, like, big elaborate stories to, like, the fat dancer in Jabba's palace and, like, the weird spider droids that walk around in the background. And, you know, everyone in the cantina, like, secretly had plans for, like, the original Death Star and had to get them to somebody or other. And it was like, you're making this universe seem awfully small by having absolutely everybody we've bumped into have something to do with the war effort that we've already seen. Like, everybody's got something to do with the Death Star. Come on. I thought Vader's chest was an ATM machine. Yeah, a lot of people have sort of said that they're coming around to enjoying the prequels. I wish I could be there with you folks, but yeah, I do not care for the prequels in general. Are there some fun adventure scenes? Yeah, for sure. Do I like the characters in them? Not really. Not really. I wish I did. I like Star Wars. I like the world of Star Wars. I've never really had much of a desire to rewatch the prequels. I think Ewan McGregor came out the best. I think like his Obi-Wan Kenobi was relatively interesting. But I also don't know that we needed 3 movies to tell us like what we got in like the last 20 minutes of Revenge of the Sith. You know what I mean? Like we could kind of guess where it was all going, and it just took forever to get there. I don't know. I didn't find Anakin a very interesting character in those movies. I didn't think Padme was an especially interesting character either. Qui-Gon Jinn was nobody. He was just there. But you know what? I could talk crap about Star Wars, and it doesn't do anybody any good. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave my criticisms for Star Wars right there. I don't need to go into any further detail. I just didn't care for them ultimately. I wish I did. Droids, the Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah, well, Droids and Ewoks wasn't so good either. Porkins was the first pilot to fly an X-Wing and designed the original B-Wing. I don't know if you're joking or if that literally was a story from those books. That sounds like it was a literal thing. Yeah, Natalie Portman's a good actress. She really is. I like her in lots of things. I don't know that she was necessarily bad as Padme. I just don't think that there was anything interesting about Padme. Darth Maul had a good personality because he had a 2-sided saber. Exactly. 2 sides. How do you beat that? It's like, I don't know. I wish I liked it. I wish I did. But, you know, I mean, I grew up, like, settling for things like the Droids cartoon and the Ewoks Battle for Endor TV movie, and you were just like, okay, I mean, I guess, yeah. Kind of like Star Wars. It was a little cheap, but alright, it was a little bit, it's kind of like Star Wars. You just sort of, it wasn't fun, but you took what you could get because it just was a different era, you know? It just was not the era that it is now where like superheroes and sci-fi get made as much as they do. Like we just didn't have as many options, so you just sort of settled for like low budget things that were somewhat tied to what you like. Darth Maul was amazing in Clone Wars. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about Clone Wars. I haven't watched it, but I've heard good things about Clone Wars and pretty good things about Rebels. I haven't seen it. There were 2 Ewoks movies, Rebel Leaf. There was Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor. Of the 2, I think that Battle for Endor was the better one. I'm trying to remember. But, like, one had, like, this kid, Sindel, and her brother, and their parents were, like, injured, so that the 2 kids go on an adventure with the Ewoks to get, like, you know, power to repair the spaceship. But in the next one, Sindel's whole family has died, and now the Ewoks have to fight an evil witch, and that one was actually a little better. But it was still pretty bad. It was terrible. Clone Wars is fantastic. And that's what a lot of people say. And that is cool to hear. I'll have to check it out someday. I really hope I can find the time to watch it because I am curious. But so far, that's just something that's flown under my radar, or I just really haven't had the time, I should say, to commit to seeing it. I'd like to. People tell me that Anakin's Padawan, and I'll probably mispronounce her name, but Ahsoka Tano becomes a really interesting character over the life of all those shows. So I've heard interesting things from about that, and I'm like, all right, I'm kind of curious. We are the Ewoks, and we are one big happy family. Jeannie liked the Ewoks okay, but Jeannie's also 3 years younger than me. I liked the Ewoks in general, especially when they came out in Return of the Jedi, but that cartoon I was not necessarily a fan of. It kind of frustrated me, because I was always like, okay, we've got the Ewoks. Like, what's happening with Luke Skywalker and Han Solo at this point? Can't we just check in on them for an episode? No. The answer was no, we could not. Yeah, the Droids theme song's In Trouble Again, I think. I remember that stuff. I definitely remember it. The Ewoks cartoon was one of those cartoons that always felt like an hour long despite being half that long, yeah. I don't remember who the Ewoks had a problem with on their cartoon now that you joke about that. I really don't remember that part. I remember, I mean, there was Wicket, and there was I think a gray female love interest type character, and I think that there was maybe Tebow was the name of one of them. I can't really remember what that Ewoks cartoon was about. Huh. Yeah. I remember the Droids cartoon was more sort of like an anthology. Like, they would constantly sort of get new owners and get into a weird adventure every week. And I want to say the Droids one may have been set before Star Wars, so that one didn't bother me as much that we didn't get to see Luke and Han and Leia, but I could be wrong. It's hard to remember. But, you just sort of settled for it because there was no hint of, any more movies coming out. So you're just like, all right, this is as much Star Wars as I can get. I love Star Wars. But really all you were trying to do was get reminded of the good moments from the movies. Paul Dini produced the Ewoks cartoon? He may have worked on it. I don't know if he was the producer. I don't know. Cool bike. What's the topic for this? The topic is I'm trying to draw a Triumph motorcycle for my friend Tan, and that's him, and I hope he likes it. I owe him a Christmas present, and got him something, but I also wanted to draw him something just because I know he loves his motorcycle, and I thought it would be an interesting challenge. So it's as simple as that. And personally, I think I'm pretty happy with how it's coming along. Yeah, Lucas produced the Young Indiana Jones TV show. That was definitely something he worked on. And I remember at the time, the Young Indiana Jones show was what it was. It was okay. It wasn't really as it wasn't that action packed was the only problem. But for what it was kind of interesting, and you kind of got used to it over time. But then one day there were these ads. Harrison Ford was going to be making an appearance on the Young Indiana Jones show, like set in the present day. He was going to be playing Indiana Jones again. Oh my God, I was so excited. I was so excited. That night that it was supposed to air, we had a huge snowstorm wherever I was. And like the reception, it just wouldn't come in. Didn't have cable. This was back in like antenna era. Oh, it drove me nuts. I only saw like the very, very end. It finally came in. And all that happened was Indiana Jones was like in a cabin telling a story. And like these two guys come in to fight him. They punch him and he does a terrible job. Like he can't fight back and he just sort of gives up. And you're like, huh? And then he just plays his saxophone and it causes a bunch of snow to fall off the roof and like, you know, pin the bad guys. And I was like, seriously? That's what you do with Harrison Ford? You just have him go like, toot. Snow falls on the bad guys. And he's just like, sometimes it's just that easy, kid. I was like, oh my God. He didn't have an eye patch there. Like it was usually hosted by modern day Indiana Jones in the modern day, and he was really, really old. But yeah, Harrison Ford appeared just like in that one episode, and it was terrible because it wasn't all about him. That was what the episode was about, I think. Like, because every episode, like Indiana Jones would bump into somebody from history and like, you know, learn about them. And so I think that episode was like, you know, he must have met like a famous jazz player. Like I said, like the episode didn't come in, so I didn't really get to see it. So he probably learned how to play like the jazz saxophone from like somebody in New Orleans or something like that, if I had to guess. And then like the framing device is Harrison Ford is in like some old cabin and telling like a kid about it or something. And when some bad guys try to beat him up, he basically lets them beat him up, and then he just plays his horn to make some snow fall off the roof and pin them, and that's what you get from Harrison Ford. And I have no idea what they must have just paid him a dump truck of money to do that, because it was, trust me, you see that and you're like, oh, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is fine. At least it isn't just Harrison Ford sitting in a chair and playing the saxophone to hilariously cover up the bad guys. 2 years or so from Ford's actual life. I don't know. Yeah, Mark Hamill does do a great Harrison Ford impression, but not as good as mine, because I'll be in my trailer and I want all green jelly beans in there. Harrison Ford has aged really well. Well, you know, he's been a major star forever, so he's been able to, you know, have professional trainers and dietitians and stuff pretty much his whole life. And, yeah, he has taken care of himself. Now crash a plane, exactly. Hasn't he crashed a plane like twice? Plus he broke his leg when he was making the Force Awakens. Like, that guy has become this accident-prone old grandpa. Harrison Ford is just going to die by, like, tripping off of a bus or something really embarrassing like that. Well, I really appreciate everybody staying here, because I'm getting close to wrapping up, and you've been here with me through the whole thing, so that means a lot to me. It's kept it fun and light and interesting. Helped keep me sort of distracted and keep working. Let's see. people talking about? Harrison Ford survived some near-fatal accidents recently. Yeah, he seems like a really accident-prone weirdo. But he's indestructible. Harrison Ford's made a lot of good movies, but at a certain point, it was unfortunately all of a sudden he started like choosing some pretty bad projects. At a certain point, but he for a long time he was one of my all-time favorite actors. He's cool, man. He's definitely cool. Yo, I'm Peace Pop Pete, and I'm up in this hizzy. I'm gonna let you know that I'm here to get busy, so give me all your cash. Don't make this tricky, and if you give me any trouble, things are gonna get sticky. How do you like that? Did I do that all right? Good job, Najiad. That was his rap. I just read it. Someone, Care Bear mentioned Harrison Ford's going to die when someone springs the holiday special on him. I'll tell you, for some reason, it just reminded me of this other sort of Star Wars-related nerdiness. Conan once had Harrison on his show, and it was the funniest thing. They had this annoying producer that works for Conan. Like, they play it up, but like Conan gets annoyed by him all the time. His name is Jordan Schlansky. And Jordan is, I don't know how to describe him. He's a character. You got to look at it. He's very prim and prissy, like some sort of C-3PO kind of guy or something like that. He's very proper and very like know-it-all about his obsessions, one of which is apparently Star Wars. And he came out to like show off his collector's edition Millennium Falcon Lego set that he built. And Harrison Ford goes, "Hey, that's great. Can I see that?" And he just picks it up and he goes, "Whoa!" And he just drops it behind and the Lego just shatters everywhere. Oh man, it is funny. So just look that up sometime. Like, Conan, Harrison Ford, Lego, and you're going to see a pretty great clip. Oh man. So I'm just about done here, and I just realized that I have something to the side here that could be fun to go through. I got some sort of gachapon things for myself in Japan, aside from what I put in the prizes for my show. I've got these like Akira boxes, and I'm just gonna open them up and see what I got here. Alright. So these are, I just realized that it was just over here, so I just figured it would be fun to open them up. Looks like these are the potential things you could get. Kaneda on his bike. Kaneda with a gun in the wreckage. Tetsuo starting to lose his arm. And, I forget the name of this kid now. And I just reviewed Akira, but like, he's one of the Espers. Takashi, I think, is his name. Anyway. Yeah, the author of Ender's Game is against gay rights. He's Orson Scott Card. He's not a great person. Alright, it looks like I got Takashi here. So I'm going to open this up while I'm doing this. Just for fun. Saw a trailer for Call of the Wild movie Harrison Ford is starring in. When I saw... Oh, I haven't heard of the Call of the Wild movie. That sounds alright. Harrison Ford, huh? That looks cool. Anyway, and you just sort of plant that in. Okay, it gives me a nice, like, that's pretty cool. That is a really elaborate gachapon. Like, that is such a nice scene. That is really cool looking. Alright, so there's one. I'm just gonna, I know this isn't related at all, but I've got another one here. Ooh, I got a Kaneda. Love that figure. I just have these two, I guess. Yeah, I wish I got the Kaneda on the bike. I like how that looks. I didn't get the Kaneda on the bike. Oh well, that's alright, that's alright. Oh wait, there's another piece to that one. What is that? Looks like a paint roller. Where's that go? Paint roller. Okay. Seems unnecessary to have included as a second piece, but okay. I haven't seen the trailer for Call of the Wild. I didn't know that was being made into a movie. So where's this supposed to plug in? Looks like back here or something. I don't get it. How do I do this? Oh, there's more. Oh, there's more. There's part 2 there. Looks like part 2 hasn't come out yet. Okay, so this shows me how this should be. And you know what? I may do some grayscale on this bike now that I'm looking at it. That could be cool. This is supposed to be over here. Oh, I see. Right down here. Boy, that's low. Is that going to stick in? Guess so. Alright, great. Great, I put the paint roller in. Oh, I've got another thing. Okay, hold on. Oh, I got this at the Godzilla store. Gotta rip this open. Hold on. So this is 2019 exclusive that is only sold at the Godzilla store. Some sort of small Godzilla or kaiju monster. Alright. Here we go. And I got Mothra, it looks like. I got Mothra. That's pretty nicely sculpted, actually. That's a pretty nice sculpt. I guess technically these aren't from Gachapon machines. No, you're right. These aren't technically from Gachapon. These are just blind box things. Blind boxes. So not Gachapon. Show and tell, show and tell. You know what I should do is just do a live stream, popping open the various Gachapons that I got, just so that people can see what they could potentially win, and put it right back in the capsule and stuff. Don't play with it, just sort of show what it is. Loot crates? Not exactly loot crates. You could just buy these on the shelves there. They have lots of blind boxes over in Japan and lots of Gachapon machines. I like this Mothra. I like that. That looks pretty cool to me. I like Mothra, though. Mothra, a Kaneda, and an ESP kid. So I got some interesting blind boxes. Alright, enough of that tomfoolery. I'll put that to the side. Yay, I got toys! Yay! And I'll do, your friend kind of looks like Neo. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Alright. So I'm just going to use just grays to sort of give this, little more depth. Let's see, will this be the lightest color I use? Yeah. I just feel that when I add these grays, it can give it a little more roundness and depth, because I'll use a couple different colors here to give it just a little character, ideally. Not as cool as Wicked. Cool looking Mothra. Unboxing videos do seem to be popular. Are they still, though? I don't know. I don't know. You know what? I just realized this is going to take actually quite a while to use grays for like all these different little elements. So I think I may just sort of do the rest of the gray toning quietly on my own because it's getting late and I gotta feed my cats and go to bed. So I'm gonna just finish one or two little areas here with this color and then I'm gonna call it a night. I hear you, Chibi. I'll feed you in a sec. But you guys have been great, like hanging out with me tonight. Much appreciated. I had a good time tonight drawing, which is all that matters in life. All that matters is drawing and having fun drawing. That's all that matters. Again, all that no. So, before I let you go, though, I've got a question. Like, what other channels have you been watching on YouTube lately? Because I'm always just curious what's blowing up or becoming interesting in the world of YouTube. Let me know what you're watching. I'll let you know if I've heard of it or curious, like, for more details, etc. All right, have a good New Year's, JoJo. Anybody got any YouTube to recommend? Could be about anything. Does not have to be comics or anything like that. I hear you, cat. I'll be right with you. Yeah, you're a patient kitty. Let's see. Comic Pop, Bearded Pop Hunter, Ideas of Fire and Ice, Pros and Cons. Thank you. Rarez Reviews of Crappy Knockoff Consoles. That sounds like fun. Cartoonist Kayfabe, good. New Legacy, don't know that one. Star Wars Theory, Cinemassacre. Yeah, I still watch plenty of Cinemassacre. I like them. Cool stuff. Thank you. I always like to see what other people are watching. That means a lot to me to just understand what's popular with my viewers. I want to stay in touch, you know what I mean? If everybody's saying the same thing and I haven't heard of it, that means, like, you know, I'm out of touch. I haven't... Anyway, gotta make sure that I'm not out of touch. That's the worst thing you can be. You meowing at me, cat? Yeah? You hungry? You hungry, little girl? I can feed you. What else? Emmy Made in Japan. Okay. Maybe Chrissy watches that one. That sounds a little familiar. John Campia. I don't know that one, but I'll look it up. NWA Power, G.I. Joeberg. G.I. Joeberg does a lot of hard work. Cartoonist Kayfabe, Matt Draper. Awesome. Both channels I really respect. Tiny Desk Concerts. Geekvolution. Richard Friend. Richard Friend. I don't think I know Richard Friend. I'll have to look that one up. Sounds interesting. I like that. Thank you, everyone. That's super helpful to, like, hear about this stuff. I think I'll call it there for now. This needs some more work, but it'll have to be put on pause for now, and I'll wrap it up in my own time later. This was fun. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to take off in a sec. appreciate everybody hanging out here tonight. Geeks and gamers should be avoided. Oh, okay. Don't know that one. Scott Manley, Toy Galaxy. See you next decade. That's right? Psyman Dan. He debunks conspiracy theories. All right, that's pretty cool. Daily Dose of Internet. Cool. All right. Well, I think I will wrap it. But, folks, I've had a great time. Thank you, everybody. I will see you soon. Keep reading comics. I'll need to think up a better catchphrase since this is pros and cons. But thank you very much for joining me for my first live stream. Hopefully many more to come. Appreciate the questions. And I'll try to be back soon. Take care. Bye.